Hi, this is Anil Bharti, and we are here at KubeCon in San Diego. And today we have with us Rob Hirschfeld, and we are starting a new segment on TFIR called Daily Wrap, presented by Racken.
Excellent.
Where we just we'll go through some of the major announcements of the day and what you saw as you walked through these sessions or you meet people. So let's start kind of unwrapping the day. Tell about what has been the major highlights of the day.
So today is day zero of the KubeCon, which cracks me up every time because it's a day zero problem. But it's literally a community event. So every project, SIG, cluster, group, vendors have had rooms and sponsored events where people would come in and basically do pre-conference work or meetings or trainings or things like that. And it looks like it's been amazingly successful. It doesn't have the vibe of the full conference, like the show floor is not open and there aren't keynotes yet, but people are here, they're learning, they're working with the people they interact with the most, and it's actually been really impressive. So the Twitter streams and watching people's discussions out of those sessions look like they're getting a lot out of them. So.
Mm-hmm. And any announcements, news announcement, or any discussion, like for example, Mirantis acquired Docker?
Docker Enterprise, yeah, that one has a lot of people scratching their head on that. That's been a big topic of conversation over beers in town, and so we're definitely trying to figure out what that means and if it means anything. It's funny because we like to go back about 2 years and think about what was happening 2 years ago, and DockerCon and KubeCon were, sort of KubeCon was a small event at that time, not the big event. It's almost 12,000 people now, and so there's been a big change from that perspective and what happened with Docker and how Docker was operating. So having Mirantis pick them up has people sort of scratching their head. They didn't expect it to be Mirantis's core business. But we also see where things are going. And what people overlook in that acquisition is that there is actually a significant amount of Docker that's left over. And there's they raised a little bit of money with that.
Yeah, how is it possible that you raise money the same day one of the 97% of business get acquired?
So I can give the hot take on that. It's that there's two businesses in Docker. They have an enterprise sales perspective where they were trying to do the enterprise side, and it was just be very hard to compete in the Kubernetes space from that perspective as something different. And they had a lot of developer tools, and Docker's real brand was around developer tools. So if you were investing money to try and keep that part of the business alive, it makes a lot of sense to not have the two businesses, if you will. I think Docker definitely set up a lot of places where they weren't welcomed in the community, or they felt they weren't participating with the community. And yeah, when it came time to build things around Docker, they hadn't built up the goodwill that you would need to get pulled into a partnership. And Mirantis has been, the OpenStack, good or bad, OpenStack has an amazingly strong collaborative community. And so when you're, sort of grew up in that environment, you get very used to working with other companies. And so Mirantis has that much deeper than Docker did, and we'll see, how they take the people, because a lot of this is people, and pull them into their culture and in the Kubernetes work that they're doing now.
Perfect. What other observations you had? We are here, and before we started recording this discussion, you're mentioning about which is the open source company which has best people or something like that, and the answer was
that's right. So I was talking to some of my friends in the CNCF who are organizing it, and there's a whole bunch of data about who's at the conference and who's sponsoring it. So there's a lot of public information that will be released about the conference. I was getting a little bit of a preview, and he was asking us to guess who the biggest attendance, who had the most people here for the show. And it wasn't exactly what I expect. It was VMware.
Who were you expecting? You gave the answer. I was thinking
thinking it was Red Hat and IBM as a combination. They have a lot of people to bring, and really two businesses that would just show up. But people underestimate, I was at VMworld, and VMware really came into Kubernetes very aggressively. And people should remember they had Pivotal, so they had a lot of the Pivotal's Kubernetes pieces. They themselves, VMware, had a lot of Kubernetes work, and the Kubernetes work they're doing didn't just surface in the last month with the Heptio acquisition, which also had a small number of people, but people. It had actually been going on for a long time. And so there's a lot of momentum for them, and then they also have a lot of desire to bring people up to speed. And if you're going to learn and get enmeshed in the community, this is a great place to do it. And they also did today announce an open source networking project.
What was that?
Athena. I'm still catching up on my reading from all these announcements. Mm-hmm. But VMware, people forget about this, is a fierce networking company. And so there's a lot of interesting competition in the networking space around Kubernetes, and a lot of need for better ways to do networking. Service mesh at the top layer, but just plain the CNI, the networking interfaces at the plumbing level are really significant components for all this. Google had a small announcement of acquiring a cloud company to help do some on-prem to cloud migration work. I'm not entirely sure the Kubernetes connection, but it had a VMware connection, which brings up Athos, which is Google and VMware, really Google's on-premises cloud, and there's a whole bunch of service mesh components for that. Networking always is important. And that has a big VMware tie into it too, because a lot of the initial Anthos pieces are all VMware based. So it's a very closely knit community with a lot of people working together and pulling different pieces, and at the same time friendly co-opetition where there's plenty of sharp elbows and pushing as people try and Google, Amazon, Microsoft, VMware, Red Hat all try and figure out, I guess I should say IBM, all try and figure out what their winning strategy is, and how they work together and how they compete.
Any other significant development or progress that you've seen in the community? Because this is growing. Kubernetes or KubeCon, it's just getting bigger and bigger every year. What do you think about this growth?
I'm excited about it. I also attend AWS reInvent every year as a thing, mostly for networking. And the hallway track, what we commonly call the hallway track, which means you don't even make it into sessions because you're seeing people that you know and you're having great discussions and conversations, is very real. And so having more people here means there's more activity. I walk around the streets in San Diego and find people randomly that I want to catch up with and talk to. And that's the value in these shows. And so when a show reaches this size, then you do get, you walk through the bar and you find somebody that you want to talk to, or you're walking down the street and you see people. And that's a really exciting time because it's part of the networking. I have to say I also love the small shows too. And so there is a part of me that misses 2016 when it was, a couple of room, 4-track conference. And, at that point you actually could know everybody at the show. But they're both good phases, and I have to say the CNCF event staff that's actually putting all this together does an amazing job. It's a lot of work to put all these pieces together. They've been working hard to make it smooth. I have to give a shout out to them, and be respectful as a conference organizer. That's really hard to do. So.
One thing that is that I like about Linux Foundation is that they focus on diversity. So. I was talking to Brian this morning. He's one of the co-chairs, and he was talking about we did not. He was being humble, but because as you said, you do attend a lot of events.
Yeah.
So do you see that CNCF or Linux Foundation putting enough efforts to make it more inclusive? So because they have childcare they initiated, and they do a lot of other things.
Yeah. No, I think that they are definitely putting the effort in. And I know that they're very vigorous on code of conduct, making sure everybody feels welcome. I think the community itself is welcoming, and that's important. But it's not always easy. So I think they are doing a lot. There's always opportunities, and if you pull in this many people, there'll be something that I'm sure the show organizers are going to be trying to fight through. But they do a really good job with it.
So of course we are almost, the day is almost over. It's time for beer and drinks, but that also means, that today
and parties, yes.
In parties, and of course in parties. But tomorrow is the big day, with keynotes and all those things. So what are you looking forward? What are you excited about tomorrow?
So definitely catching up with friends, but there's a lot of startups bouncing around and doing some really interesting things in Kubernetes. My interests lean towards edge, of course bare metal for rack end, but I want to find out what people are doing to look at distributed multi-site Kubernetes. I know some startups here are doing that, and I'm going to wrangle them and see if we can get some exciting stories out of them.
Thank you, Rob, for this Recon powered wrap up, and I look forward to tomorrow's wrap to see what is happening tomorrow. I won't be at the keynotes because I'll be sitting here and talking to people. This is my hallway track. This is my cave track.
They come to you.
Yeah, so this is my den, my cave where people come and we talk to. So I'll have a lot of exciting, inputs for you to share what I talked about, and you will have a lot of things to share what you saw as you walk through all these, sessions and talks.
We'll trade the secrets.
Trade the secret. Thank you.